getting the mail was a small adventure. You'd sprint to the box hoping for something exciting. Maybe a letter from your pen pal, maybe a toy insert from a catalog. Bills? That was grown-up stuff. You were looking for color, surprise, and maybe a stamp you could peel off and add to a shoebox collection. If you didn't ride in the way back of a station wagon, did you even grow up in the 70s? Facing backwards, no seatbelt in sight, waving at cars behind you like you were royalty. You'd roll around on turns and never complained. Parents up front, windows down, AM radio on. Those road trips were the stuff of legend. Schoolhouse Rock came on right between cartoons, so you never really knew you were learning something. But there you were, shouting about conjunctions and the number 3 like it was rock and roll. The songs stuck in your head for days. To this day, you can probably still sing, "I'm just a bill" without missing a beat. That sound was magic. The tinny jingle of the ice cream truck echoing down the street. You didn't walk, you ran, usually barefoot, clutching a warm nickel or maybe a crumpled quarter. All the neighborhood kids converged like it was a siren call. Rocket Pops, Fudgsicles, or whatever wasn't sold out by the time you reached it. Wacky packages were a whole culture. You'd peel that sticker just right and slap it on your school folder like it was fine art. The parodies cracked you up, spoofs of cereal boxes and soda cans, and they felt like your little rebellion. Everyone had their favorites. Maybe yours was crust toothpaste with the worms crawling out. A single dollar could get you a king's feast back then. Candy cigarettes, wax lips, a bottle of soda, and still change jingling in your pocket. The corner store smelled like bubble gum and sawdust, and you'd press your nose to the glass candy case like you were picking diamonds. It was pure, uncomplicated freedom with sugar. A new school year always meant a fresh peachy folder or a shiny 3-ring binder that hadn't been doodled on yet. It felt like a do-over, new pencils, clean erasers, and hopes of not getting called on in math class. You'd sit at your desk and just smell the paper, pretending this year would be different. Summer nights had a hum to them. Crickets, neighbors talking, maybe a radio playing somewhere down the block. You'd run barefoot in the grass, chasing fireflies with jars in hand, punching little holes in the lid like a scientist. You always let them go, though. It felt wrong to keep something that magical locked up overnight. One phone, one long coiled cord, and a whole family fighting over it. You'd yank that cord into the hallway or wrap it into the bathroom just for a little privacy. No call waiting, no caller ID, just blind trust. If someone picked up the other receiver mid-call, all you heard was, "Get off, I'm on." Yep, you really bought rocks. Smooth little guys with painted-on eyes tucked into cardboard boxes like they needed a home. Pet rocks were everywhere for about a week. But in kid time, that was forever. You'd feed it imaginary food, carry it in your backpack, and act like it had a personality. That rock never barked, though. Dynamite magazine was the holy grail at the book fair. You'd flip to the centerfold posters, Sean Cassidy, Farrah Fawcett, Evel Knievel, and tape them up like wallpaper. The jokes were corny, but you laughed anyway. It made you feel just a little more in the know, like you had your finger on the pulse of something cool. Porch steps were your playground. You'd sit cross-legged and toss jacks until your knuckles turned red, or flick marbles down chalk-drawn lanes. No batteries, no screens, just a pocket full of bits and a whole afternoon to waste. You knew who the real champs were by how fast they scooped jacks without even dropping the ball. The electric company was wild. It had this strange energy, bright colors, singing words, and Morgan Freeman before you even knew who he was. You'd sit cross-legged on shag carpet and stare, hypnotized. They made reading seem like a magic trick. Even now the words, "Hey, you guys," still echo in your head like a shout from home. That red radio flyer was the ultimate ride. You'd pull your buddy down the sidewalk like a chariot racer, wheels rattling and handle wobbling in your sweaty grip. Sometimes a wheel would pop off, or the front end would dip and toss everyone forward. You'd laugh like a maniac and keep pulling anyway. Safety wasn't the point. Simon wasn't just a toy, it was war. That thing lit up with colors and sounds, daring you to keep up, and you did, until it cheated. It had to have skipped one. You'd slap that plastic dome and swear revenge. You probably never beat the full pattern, but boy, you sure tried. There was something cozy about sneaking in a few more pages under the covers. You'd grab the flashlight, tuck in tight, and hope the batteries lasted through one more chapter. The pages smelled like library dust, and the thrill of getting away with it made even Nancy Drew feel like an action thriller, worth every sleepy morning. Toughskins were exactly that, tough, built like armor for kids who couldn't sit still. Yours always had grass stains by the second day of school, but the knees held up through every slide, scuffle, and bike crash. Moms loved them. You tolerated them, at least until they got stiff in the wash and scratched your legs like sandpaper. Peanut butter sandwiches wrapped in wax paper just hit different, as the kids would say today. That wax paper crinkled when you opened it, and half the time it stuck to the bread. But it was yours, packed with love, tucked into a metal lunchbox, probably with an apple rolling around loose in there too. You weren't really passing notes unless it was folded into a paper fortune teller. Pick a color, pick a number, and boom, your future was sealed. Married to Mark, living in a mansion, driving a limo, you took it seriously too, even if you made up the fortunes yourself. You turned your bike into a motorcycle with nothing but a clothespin and a playing card. The louder it flapped in the spokes, the cooler you were. Add some handlebar streamers, maybe a banana seat, and suddenly you were Evel Knievel, riding into glory. The neighbors probably hated the racket, but for you, it was pure horsepower. Games like Mother May I or Red Light, Green Light taught you two things. Listen closely and don't trust your friends. You'd shout, run, fake stumbles, and argue over the rules constantly, but no one ever wanted to quit first. These weren't just games. They were full-blown psychological warfare. Health checks at school were a whole production. You'd line up in your socks, one after the other, shuffling forward to get weighed on that clunky scale with the sliding bar. Then you'd stand straight against a height chart while someone muttered numbers. It felt official, like maybe you were growing up in real time. Film strips meant a break from regular class, and you loved them for it. The lights would dim, the reel would click, and every few seconds the teacher would beep and move it forward by hand. If the machine jammed, you cheered. The sound, the hum, the pictures slightly off focus. It was low-tech magic that made school just a little easier. The library wasn't just quiet, it was mysterious. You'd flip through those wooden drawers of index cards, hunting for treasure by title or author, like some kind of detective. Finding the right shelf felt like winning something. The books had that musty paper smell, and checking one out felt official, like you were doing grown-up stuff with a secret smile. Birthday cupcakes at school were always still in the muffin tin, slightly smushed from the walkover. No fancy frosting swirls, just paper liners, maybe some sprinkles. But the best part was the whole class stopping for your day. You handed them out like royalty, and for 10 glorious minutes, the teacher didn't care about fractions. Those bold striped knee socks looked great at 8 a.m., all pulled up and proud. By lunchtime, they were bunched around your ankles like wrinkled accordions. You'd tug them back up in the hallway between classes, hoping no one noticed. But they always slouched again. Folding notebook paper into the perfect triangle took real skill. You'd pass notes like secret agents, sliding them under desks, or pretending to drop a pencil. Do you like me? Circle yes or no. Sometimes you'd get caught. Sometimes the reply was brutal. But that note, that was everything, for 5 glorious minutes. Yarn crafts were serious business. You'd wrap and loop it into God's eyes or work that plastic loom until your potholder looked halfway straight. The colors never matched, and the ends were always too long, but you were proud. You'd give it to your mom, and she'd use it like it came from Macy's. Record players with built-in speakers felt like the future. You'd stack a few albums, flip the switch, and just let them drop. The needle hissed, the speakers crackled, and your room filled with sound. You might have scratched a few records over time, but that first side of Rumors, it got played until it was practically see-through. Book reports were an event. You'd pick something like The Boxcar Children or Ramona the Pest, not because it was easy, because you loved them. You'd scribble down plot points, doodle on the cover page, and hope the teacher didn't make you read it out loud. And if they did, well, you gave it your best shot. High C came in heavy metal cans with pull tabs sharper than a tack. You'd pop it open like a grenade and sip with caution. One wrong move and your lip was sliced. But that bright orange liquid, pure sunshine, it stained your tongue and your shirt, and you never once questioned what fruit it was supposed to be. Your bedroom walls were covered edge to edge with posters from Tiger Beat or 16 Magazine, David Cassidy, Leif Garrett, maybe Farrah if you were lucky. You'd tape them up crooked and smile like you'd just redecorated a mansion. They watched over your dreams at night and made your room feel like the center of the pop culture universe. Bringing the class guinea pig home for the weekend felt like an honor and a threat. You'd carry the cage like it was full of treasure, feed it carrots with shaky hands, and pray it didn't escape. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough, but you were proud until it nibbled a hole in your favorite sock. School picture day never went as planned. Your collar was always a little crooked, your smile felt forced, and the photographer said, "Say cheese," like it would fix everything. A week later, the photo came back. Awkward, glossy, and unmistakably you. Your parents stuck it on the fridge anyway, right next to last year's crooked grin. Learning the Dewey Decimal System felt like unlocking a secret code. You'd walk into the library like a detective, scan the little drawers, and pull the perfect card with pride. You didn't always find the right book, but you felt like a genius. Honestly, you probably still remember 398.2 means fairy tales. That one stuck forever. Recess had no rules. You played mumbledy-peg with pocket knives or slapped hands read playing bloody knuckles. No teacher hovered. You just learned by doing, and sometimes bleeding. You'd come back inside with dirty nails, bruised fingers, and a grin. No one called it unsafe. It was just how you figured out what your limits were. Show and tell was chaos. One kid brought their dog, another brought a rock shaped like Elvis, and someone always brought a baby turtle. It sat in a plastic bowl, blinking slowly while 25 kids leaned in too close. The teacher acted calm, but you could tell she was praying no one knocked it over. Shag carpet was public enemy number one when it came to brushing your hair. You'd walk across the room, reach for a comb, and zap, static city. Every strand stood up like a science experiment. You'd blame the carpet, the brush, even the air. But deep down, you secretly thought it looked kind of cool. Cassette tapes were fragile things. One bad rewind, and the whole ribbon exploded. You'd grab a pencil and twist it back into place, slow and steady, like brain surgery. Then you pop it back in and hope for the best. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it sounded like the singer got stuck in a blender. Licking stamps felt official. You'd line up your pen pal letter, fold it just right, and slap that stamp on like sealing a deal. Your tongue always tasted like glue afterward. And if the stamp went on crooked, too bad. You weren't wasting another one. Your notebooks were covered in peace signs, rainbows, hearts, and smiley faces. You doodled during math class, pretending to listen. The margins were more colorful than the actual notes. It wasn't about being an artist. It was about making your notebook feel like yours. And maybe impressing the kid sitting one row over. Prank calls were a rite of passage. You'd wait until the coast was clear, dial a random number from the yellow pages, and ask, "Is your refrigerator running?" The giggles started before they even answered. If someone yelled, you slammed the phone down and ran. Field day turned into a full-on war when someone showed up with silly string. You'd chase each other across the playground like lunatics, spraying until the can gave out or someone tattled. It always ended in detention or at least a warning. But for those 10 chaotic minutes, you felt like a superhero with a squirt-powered web. You didn't need a movie star's autograph. Sometimes just getting one from the local weatherman or a roller derby queen was enough. They were celebrities in your town, bigger than life. You'd line up at the mall or after a parade, clutching a pen and a napkin. When they smiled and signed it, you floated home. Bubblegum was fun until it betrayed you. One wrong pop and it was in your hair, stuck like glue. You'd panic, Mom would sigh, and out came the peanut butter. You'd sit there greasy and ashamed while she worked it out. It didn't always save the strand, but it saved the haircut. Usually. Zoom felt like it was made just for you. You'd sit cross-legged in front of the TV and dream up ideas to send to Box 350, Boston, Massachusetts, 02134. You probably never mailed anything, but you rehearsed it in your head. It made you feel like any kid, yes, even you, could be on TV someday. Weebles were weirdly hypnotic. You'd flick them, tilt them, line them up like bowling pins, and sure enough, they never fell down. You tried, you really tried. You even launched one off a table once, and it still wobbled upright like it had something to prove. They were oddly comforting in a world full of toppleable toys. Memorizing the preamble to the Constitution felt like cramming for Broadway. You stood in front of the mirror repeating, "We the people," until the words lost meaning. Then you get on stage, heart-pounding, and recite it with all the drama you could muster. Somewhere out there, a VHS still has that performance. Sticker collections were a full-blown economy. You kept them in shoe boxes or binders, sorted by glitter, fuzz, and smell. You'd trade like Wall Street pros. 2 scratch and sniffs for 1 Garfield. You never actually used them. That would ruin their value. They were art, currency, and bragging rights, rolled into one slightly curled-up piece of joy. Birthday parties were simple and perfect. Pin the tail on the donkey, musical chairs, and maybe a scavenger hunt. There was always upside-down cake or cupcakes on paper plates, and you wore a paper hat, whether you liked it or not. You didn't rent a bounce house. You just ran around the yard until someone cried, or it was time for cake. You wore embroidered overalls or patched-up bell-bottoms like they were designer pieces. Half the time, the patches came from your mom's old scrap bag. Some were crooked, some were loud, but everyone had character. You didn't care about brands. You just needed something sturdy enough for recess and cool enough for the lunch table. Scented Mr. Sketch markers turned free time into an art class/sniff test. You'd draw rainbows, stars, and your name in bubble letters, then sneak a deep whiff of grape or watermelon. Sometimes the smell stuck to your fingers. Sometimes your whole arm ended up covered in doodles. You called it art. There was a special kind of pride in carrying a metal lunchbox, especially when it had the $6 million man on the side. You'd bang it open, show off your thermos, and pretend your sandwich gave you superpowers. The hinges always got a little rusty, but you carried it like a briefcase full of gold. Cutting box tops off cereal boxes felt like treasure hunting. You'd tape them to a form, add a couple quarters, and mail away for a Frisbee, decoder ring, or glow-in-the-dark thing you absolutely needed. Then came the waiting. 4 to 6 weeks felt like forever. Tying your shoes wasn't just a milestone, it was a battlefield. You'd twist those laces into the bunny ears, loop them around, and hold your breath. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But when it did, you strutted into school like you just won a prize. And you kind of had, in kid world terms. After-school specials didn't mess around. One minute you were eating graham crackers. The next, you were terrified of hitchhiking, shoplifting, or making eye contact with strangers. The music was dramatic, the acting was stiff, and the lessons hit hard. But you watched everyone. They made you think. And maybe double-check the locks before bed. Every school assembly ended with the same song, "This Land is Your Land." You sang it like a national anthem, hand over heart, eyes on the gym ceiling. Half the time you forgot the verses, but that chorus always rang out. It felt like something bigger than school. Like maybe this place really was made for you and me. Pickup basketball in the driveway didn't need rules. You'd play until the sun dipped below the trees and the hoop disappeared into shadows. The ball thudded off the garage door, the net was half unraveled, and your sneakers squeaked on cracked pavement. You didn't keep score. You just played until someone called you in. That scholastic flyer was the highlight of the week. You circled the books you wanted with a pencil and begged your parents for $3. Then came the wait. Weeks passed. Then one day, your teacher handed you a little stack of brand new paperbacks. The smell, the covers, the crisp pages. It felt like Christmas. Halloween meant one thing, going all out. You'd dress like Raggedy Ann or Evel Knievel, depending on your mood or your mom's sewing skills. The costume always came with a plastic mask and a rubber band that snapped at least once. But the pillowcase full of candy made up for everything, even the blisters. Somehow everyone had a "Kiss Me, I'm Irish" sticker, Irish or not. You'd wear it proudly on St. Patrick's Day, even if you had no idea what it meant. It was green, it was fun, and it kept you from getting pinched. That sticker could be 3 years old and still stuck to your jacket like a badge. You glued googly eyes onto anything that sat still, rocks, pencils, lunch bags, even your shoes. Suddenly, it had personality. It was silly, it was weird, and it was yours. The eyes wobbled with every step or shake, and you'd crack up every time. Who needed a toy when you could give your sandwich a soul? "Have a nice summer" was the yearbook version of goodbye. You wrote it 20 times in one afternoon, sometimes adding a smiley face or a doodle. You didn't always mean it, but it was the thing to do. That message showed up every June like clockwork, even from the kid you barely talked to all year. Lite-Brite was magical until it wasn't. You'd sit in the dark, pushing those tiny colored pegs into the screen to make a glowing masterpiece. But the real memory? Stepping on one barefoot in the hallway the next day. You saw stars, screamed into the void, and swore you'd never leave them out again. You always did. Your beanbag chair could be anything, a spaceship, a desert island, a throne. You plopped down with a book or a snack and just sink in like it was quicksand. Getting up was the hard part. That thing swallowed half your energy and most of your motivation. But boy, did it feel like home base. Learning cursive meant giant lined paper and hours of looping letters. You practiced your signature like it might end up on a check someday. The ink always smeared, especially if you were left-handed, but you kept going. That little tail on a capital Q made you feel grown up. And every swoop had to be perfect. Toy guns with red paper caps were loud, smoky, and endlessly fun. You'd load the roll, squeeze the trigger, and bang, sulfur in the air and ears ringing. After a few pops, the paper jammed or tore, and you'd carefully line it up again. Half the time, you played out back until the roll ran dry. Double Dutch was beautiful chaos. 2 ropes whipping, the count shouted out loud, and you trying not to trip on the first jump. Some kids made it look easy. You gave it your best, feet flying, hair bouncing, breath catching. And when you got past 5 jumps without falling, that felt like Olympic gold. Older siblings had the best stuff. You'd sneak into their room like a spy, flip through their records, and wonder what made the doors so serious. The posters on the wall felt rebellious. The music felt loud. You didn't understand all of it, but it made you feel a little older just standing there. Saltines and peanut butter were the snack of champions. You'd stack 2, take a bite, and feel like you'd made something fancy. Add a glass of milk and an episode of Gilligan's Island, and you were set. Sure, crumbs got everywhere, and sometimes the peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. The hustle played at every wedding and family party, and even if you didn't know the steps, you jumped in anyway. You clapped when everyone else clapped, spun when someone yelled, "Spin," and hoped no one was filming. You had no idea what you were doing, but you were out there, and that was what mattered. Pouring plastic goop into your Thingmaker molds felt like science and art combined. The smell was strong, the weight was long, and the results were squishy. You'd pop out a bug, hold it up like a trophy, and immediately plan the next one. Some came out perfect, some didn't, but they were yours. Operation was part game, part jump scare. You'd concentrate, reach in with those metal tweezers, and zzz. The red nose buzzed and your heart stopped. You never made it to the end without at least one jolt, but you kept trying, because one day you were going to be the kid who pulled out the funny bone clean. The Brady Bunch hour came on and you just stared. What was this? Singing? Dancing? Costumes? It was like your favorite show got hit by a disco ball and never recovered. You didn't get it, but you watched, because it was them. And maybe, just maybe, it would make sense next week. It didn't. Your ceramic bank came shaped like a football, a cartoon dog, or sometimes just a lumpy frog. You'd drop pennies in, one at a time, feeling proud with each clink. Every few months, you'd shake it to see how rich you were. The total never mattered. The sound, that promise, was what made it fun. You thought a pogo stick looked easy until you tried it. After 5 bounces, you had shin bruises, scraped elbows, and a blister forming on your palm. Same thing with the hula hoop. You'd keep it spinning until your sides ached, convinced you were breaking a world record. Your junk drawer held treasures, bottle caps, marbles, broken keychains, mystery screws, and bent trading cards. You'd take that haul outside and trade like it was Wall Street. One friend wanted a shiny rock, another offered a gum wrapper from a famous brand. Somehow it all made sense. That drawer was your vault. You clipped the Sunday comics like they were rare collectibles. Peanuts, Garfield, Blondie, Snip, Tape, and Fridge. Some faded in the sun, others got coffee-stained or curled at the edges, but you left them up anyway. They made the kitchen feel like your gallery. Every time you opened the fridge, there was something to chuckle at before breakfast. Polaroids were magic. You'd press the shutter, out popped the photo, and the ritual began, shaking it, blowing on it, squinting as the picture slowly appeared. Sometimes it came out blurry. Sometimes your thumb covered the lens. Didn't matter. It was yours, right there in your hand. Instant proof that the moment happened. Your tape recorder turned into a fake radio station after school. You'd press record, introduce the next hit, then sing into the mic or hum along with the record player, static in the background, dog barking in the distance. It was all part of the charm. You even made commercials. You watched In Search of, through your fingers, convinced Bigfoot was hiding in your closet. Leonard Nimoy's voice made everything sound true. Lost civilizations, monsters, UFOs. By the end of each episode, you were wide-eyed and wired. Going to bed meant double-checking the closet, under the bed, and behind the curtains, just in case something followed you home. Dropping the needle on the dark side of the moon felt like stepping into a different world. You'd lie back, eyes closed, waiting for the first ping of money to bounce between the speakers. It wasn't just music. It was an atmosphere. You didn't even move. That album taught you that sound could tell a story. Theme park ticket stubs weren't trash. They were trophies. You'd tuck one into a book, tape it to your wall, or slide it into your wallet like it meant something. And it did. That stub proved you rode the coaster, saw the parade, ate the funnel cake. It was paper, sure, but it held a whole day's worth of magic. Highlights magazine sat in every dentist's office, and you always skipped straight to Goofus and Gallant. Gallant did everything right. Goofus, well, Goofus was fun to watch. You'd compare yourself to both, wondering which one you were that day. Then came hidden pictures, jokes, and riddles. That little magazine turned a boring wait into a pretty good time. Frisbee in the street was a mix of fun and chaos. You'd throw it long, watch it sail past mailboxes and parked cars, and then someone would yell, "Car!" and the whole game stopped. You'd scatter to the sidewalk, wave, then start again like nothing happened. It wasn't a sport. It was a ritual of the neighborhood. Making friendship bracelets meant picking out the perfect colors and tying each knot with care. You give them away like gifts, wear them till they fell off, and maybe make up some wish to go with it. When one unraveled or broke, you didn't throw it out. You saved it, stringy and worn, because it meant something. Battleship wasn't just a game. It was a war of nerves. You'd call out coordinates like a general, hoping to land a hit. B9, miss. C4, hit. Plastic pegs flew, voices rose, and at least once someone accused someone else of cheating. You weren't always sure you understood the rules, but you sure knew how to accuse. Everyone had clogs for a while, even if they hurt. They made a loud thunk with every step, like you were stomping through the school hallway on purpose. You'd slip them on without socks and immediately regret it, but they looked cool. That mattered more than comfort. Until one flew off mid-jump rope and the spell broke. Candy bars from vending machines cost $0.25, and that felt like a solid investment. You'd press the metal buttons, hear the clunk, and pray it didn't get stuck. Sometimes it did. Then came the gentle bump, or the not-so-gentle shake. But when that Snickers or Milky Way dropped, worth every cent and every bruise on your arm. Mood rings promised to read your soul. You'd stare at the shifting colors, convinced they knew something you didn't. Blue meant calm. Black meant disaster. Green. Nobody really knew. Half the time it stayed the same no matter what. But you believed in it anyway. Clackers were outlawed fun. You'd swing those hard acrylic balls on the strings, trying to get the perfect rhythm. Clack, 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 without cracking your knuckles. They made a noise you could hear across the schoolyard. Then one flew off, nearly took out a window, and that was it. Banned. But for a while, they were the loudest thing on the block. After a spooky episode of Night Gallery or Kolchak, bedtime got complicated. You'd lie perfectly still, then grab a mirror and hold it under your nose, just to be sure you were still breathing. Every creak in the house was a ghost. Every shadow was a vampire. You knew it wasn't real, but it felt real. You sat in a hammock, swinging gently, lost in the pages of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Or maybe it was Harriet the Spy. The breeze rocked you, the rope left lines on your legs, and you didn't care. That little slice of shade and paper was all you needed. It felt like your own world. Jailbreak was the call that kicked off the night. You'd run through backyards, hide behind fences, tag your friends free like you were rescuing hostages. The whole block was your playground. Streetlights came on, but you kept going. Until someone's mom yelled, "Come in." And the game ended like that. You always hoped for one more round. Cereal boxes were breakfast reading material. You'd flip it around and dive in. Cartoons, puzzles, contests, fun facts about corn. You didn't care what cereal it was as long as there was something to read. If the box had a maze, even better. You'd sit there chewing and tracing the path with your finger till the milk warmed up. Doing chores wasn't fun, but if a trip to the arcade was on the line, you vacuumed like a pro. You'd scrub, sweep, and maybe even clean the bathroom, all for a few quarters. Once you had them, it was straight to Pac-Man or Space Invaders. You burned through those coins fast, but you earned every one. Fat Albert came on, and suddenly everyone was saying, "Hey, hey, hey." You'd laugh at the gang's antics, hum the theme song all day, and maybe even learn a lesson or two. It was loud, colorful, and full of heart. Even your parents didn't mind it, especially if it meant you stayed quiet for 30 whole minutes. The car wash was a thrill ride. You'd hold your breath as the big rollers thumped against the windshield, soap suds covered everything, and the nozzles screamed like jet engines. The world turned blurry and blue, and for a minute it felt like you were underwater. Then came the dryers, the sunshine, and that deep breath out. Forgetting your locker combination felt like the end of the world. You stood there spinning the dial, heart pounding, pretending you totally remembered it. One number, nope, maybe backwards. You looked around, panicked. Then someone walked by, and you just smiled like nothing was wrong. Inside, though, you were already planning your escape from middle school. Saying goodnight meant lights off, door open, and a quiet house. No alarms, no phones, just a ticking clock, maybe the hum of a fan, and the sense that everything was okay. You drifted off knowing your parents were down the hall. Nothing to lock, nothing to fear, just the kind of peace you don't forget.